Hey, everyone. Welcome to Go Live. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm being very quiet, just in case you can't hear me. Also, I've been told I shout too much, which I will not change. Thank you so much for joining us on Go Live. It's going to be an epic show. We have incredible guests, and you are incredible viewers. This is it, the Saturday evening talk show where we talk the latest and greatest in games. I haven't even had a chance to sit down and chat to the gents in the green room like I normally do, because I had a very late coffee and it had a destructive effect on my digestive system. The less said about that, the better. The more we talk about gaming, it's going to be saucy. Gents, I'm sorry we rushed through. We didn't even sit down and say goodbye. We had technical issues, so things go wrong. Just be a little bit forgiving. But it's going to be a great show. Before I introduce our panel of incredible guests, my friend, partner in crime, co-founder, co-owner, and whatever the hell title you want to give him, Stationary Boy. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Asa. How are you?
Oh, there's a story behind Stationary Boy. Gaz is actually contractually our Stationary Boy when we set this company up. It's in there. You can't get away from it. He's the Stationary Boy. I'm great though. So as you know, we've had a pretty big update for the GameOnDaily platform this week, and it's a dream to use now, which has made my whole week better. I'm loving doing that. Now we've got loads of games to play. We've got a show with Dutch and Forte, and it's going to be a great time. Let's go.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a great time, and we will talk a little bit about the website later on or closer to the end of the show, because there are some very exciting developments. It's taken us ages to get to this point, but if you haven't used GameOnDaily.com, what are you doing? You're going to be ahead of the curve if you use it now, because we're going to take over. Thank you so much for joining us, ladies and gentlemen. Returning to the show, both gents have graced us with their presence, and both gents are back after much demand. In no particular order, Wandering Dutch, looking like he's got a half mohawk. Where did you get a haircut? I swear I haven't seen you like that.
It's not even a mohawk, it's just skinhead. Yeah.
looking good with that dank beard as well. Thank you so much for joining us, man. How you doing?
Pleasure to be here, bro. You know, it's I'm great. I've just literally been playing Elden Ring all day, and got a takeaway, and that arrived about 20 minutes before we started, so I just wolfed that through. Now I'm here.
I appreciate it, and I hope you don't get stomach upset like I did. Last but certainly not least, is we had to have back because Gaming Forte killed it last time. You'll always kill it. A good friend of the community, and especially of ours. It was great having you on, and I'm so excited to have you on again. Thank you so much for joining us, bro. How you doing?
Nah, man, you gave me a reason to get off work 2 hours early today, so it was great. No, man, it's been a fun week, man. I just started my Elden Ring grind like 2 days ago, because I refused to do it with the Destiny DLC right around the corner. So I finally tied that up, started Elden Ring, got halfway through Tunic, and man, it's just fun playing games, man. It's been great.
Absolutely good, man. Well, for those you wouldn't know, I've been on holiday this week. I thought I needed a break, and I go off for a week and shit hits the fan, and there's stuff with the initiative, there's Tunic comes out and surprises everyone, and Hogwarts Legacy, all of that stuff we're going to talk into. So if you're checking us or listening to us after the fact on Spotify or an Apple Play, thank you for listening in. We're going to get into some incredible shows. There's a reason why I invited Dutch this week, because me and Dutch have a disagreement on this topic and just what we like to do here. If you haven't seen this before, we like to get some dissenting opinions and not have an echo chamber. The first topic is why I really wanted to touch with you, Dutch. I've seen your social media. The initiative is fine, and there's me going, the initiative is bad, it's going to shit, everything is going wrong, and well, the answer isn't clear. It's all up in the air. We don't really know that much, but we know a little bit. So for those of you who don't know, this week there were some insiders talking about the state of the initiative, the studio behind Perfect Dark, the studio that's working on the next Perfect Dark game. you'll have noted in our previous discussions that we talked about Drew Murray leaving. We've talked about who was the design director leaving, and then you joined Insomniac. What happened this week was something even more alarming, because at that time I had a very pessimistic approach about it, but this time this is, I'm gonna get Dutch's opinion on it. And I don't really know what you thought about it, Dutch. I've been away on holidays. I haven't seen what the discourse is, other than me just beating my chest like, see what I said, even though there's a lot more to it than that. And it's the fact that insiders have been within the studio who have described fast and furious exits from Xbox's Perfect Dark studio in the initiative, talking about almost as half of the core development team has quit in the past year. And that includes some of the most senior design team members. That was Dan Neuberger. We talked about it last week, but then we've also got lead level designers, principal world builders, 2 senior system designers, and a group of 3 former God of War designers. If you remember, when they were hired, there was a big hoopla about them joining. So that's not good news. But on top of that, we've got some... I don't know if I could take this bit by bit, but let me just summarize. They talk about the Fast and Furious exits. They talk about some critiques about the company's creative environment. They said, although the initiative's website claims the company's promotes a collaborative creative environment, this from Video Game Chronicles, former employees describe the studio's development hierarchy as very top down, with Gallagher and Neuberger keeping a strong grasp on the creative decisions. That can go either way. We can argue about that. That's quite interesting. But there was a lot of frustration on the, and I quote, painfully slow development, and the fact that a company culture never formed, which is very interesting in light of what kind of development outfit this is. Sorry, there was a lot to break down. I had to give you a little bit of that kind of background to then hopefully we can discuss this in depth a little bit more nuanced, and let's understand the dissenting opinions on this. Dutch, when this with Liam was a Drew Murray, so bad with the names, Drew Murray left, I was very concerned and talk about early in development, and you disagreed and you cited the initiative's unique structure as something not to worry about. When you saw this news, are you concerned still? Are you still confident in the studio? What is your take on this generally?
See, there's 2 aspects for people showing concern or having contrasting concerns. One aspect is people are concerned about the state of the game. That is an aspect that I have no concern about, because I trust Crystal Dynamics' capabilities.
Okay.
So Crystal Dynamics, as you've seen from the previous Tomb Raider trilogy, absolutely phenomenal in terms of the quality that they put out on there. The story, the world building, the level of detail, and everything that come along with it, including the polish and the performance of that game. So in terms of the game that'll come out of the development process, I've got no doubt the game will be fine. With regards to the studio and what the studio set out to be, there's a few aspects of it that I think make sense as to why others are leaving. When you get the scale of talent that they've got on board at the studio, and they haven't just gotten anybody. From what you've seen, it's been the best creative minds that they could find within the industry. At least that's what they've attempted to do. Yeah. And I would imagine when you've got 50, and I think it was 50 at most that worked at the studio anyway before they got Crystal Dynamics involved. When you've got 50 of some of the most creative minds within the industry into a studio to try and work together, there is bound to be clashing of heads, regardless of how much freedom you're given, because someone who's worked as a lead might no longer be lead and he's working underneath another lead, and vice versa. So the clashes of ideas and creativity is going to happen. I kind of expect a few to leave. I think, as I said, about almost half have left. I would imagine even delving deep into that now as well, some of those will be contractual anyway, where their contracts come to an end, and some of the others, the higher up. Drew, like I say, with Drew, I wasn't concerned at all because that was a personal reason. Obviously, for those that didn't know, he'd lost a family member. He was also a studio, essentially in charge of the studio. And he wanted a much less stressful position. So by doing so, he left the studio, went back to his former employer, and took up more or less a less stressful position. So that's personal choice. Fair enough. He had no grudges against the studio. In terms of the work ethic, I can understand there being, again, clashes of heads with regards to that, depending on which studios you've come from. Some of them will be used to a lot more, I wouldn't say it's got anything to do with the structure. I think some will be used to a more deadline-based focus. So like, you've got until this time to complete this, and this is when we need it for. It needs to happen to this date. And without that structure in place, some people will not work. And you find that in every job. Some people are far less, if you give them KPIs and targets to achieve, they tend to not work as well. Whereas if you just leave them alone, you end up getting better out of them. And then vice versa, those who have that structure in place and have those set targets to achieve and set deadlines to aim for, they work better under pressure. So if there isn't any pressure, then you're going to get a whole subsection of people that work better without it, and a whole subsection of people that work better with it. And then those people that, and again, the thing in the article states that they've got essentially people that have voiced their concerns, and there hasn't been anything that has changed internally in terms of the work ethic or deadlines or some kind of structure to the way they work. And then they've chosen to essentially leave the project because of that. The only concern you have here is Microsoft being too hands off now compared to where they used to be, where it was too hands on. Mm-hmm. That is the literal only concern I take out from this. I'm not bothered if people leave the studio or go elsewhere, because you will be able to...
What about the lack of the painfully slow development? Surely that is a big concern to you. I mean, you have internal staff saying it's so painfully slow.
I think that's where I'm speaking on when I could talk about Microsoft being too hands off.
Okay.
Saying, okay, we'll just go for it. Like, just go for it, have fun. When it's ready, it's ready. Sometimes Microsoft might need to step in these days and say, listen, I know we said when it's ready, but like, what progress have we got here? Is there any progress? Can we start to push things along a little bit quicker? Like, that needs some kind of hands-on. If it's to the point where it's painfully... But then the other aspect we've got here is we've got words of someone saying it's painfully slow, but what level of development are we up to be able to say it is painfully slow? Like, how far along have they got in the project to state it's too slow? Like, we're 3 years since the studio was created, almost 3.5 years. What has been done within those 3.5 years? What level? Like, is it a year away from being unveiled or released? Is it 2 years away? Whereabouts in that development process are they talking about it being slow? If it's still at the very much the beginning and it's not really moved since that, then there's a concern. If it's middle to tail end, where it's more towards kind of finishing up some of the aspects of the story and then potentially going into the latter part where you're doing the bug fixing and the polishing of the game, etc., and that's starting to take its time, it's not as concerning because that there can be refined. If it depends on the part in which it's stuck in its development, depends on the concern level we need to have here. So now, because this is why I'm not as concerned as a lot of people, because we have so little information to go with regards to the status of the project and more just the status of the staff. We don't know really how to take this properly.
Okay, not fair enough. That's a very positive view on things. I'll chime in a bit at the end of it. Forte, what's your view on this? We've talked about as much as half of the core dev team leaving. Dutch talks about, quite rightly, we don't have much information to go on, but he has a more positive view on it because of the strength of Crystal Dynamics and their very good pedigree and history and track record. When you saw the initiative news, what was your impressions and what are your thoughts now? You're muted, by the way.
Oh yeah, I was muted. Yeah, so for me, the biggest thing came back to like, I kind of think Microsoft did kind of step in on this a little bit because I don't think Perfect Dark was the game that they were making at first. I don't think that was the game they were crafting to be the experience that they wanted to bring to people at first. I think it was because it was branded as being something fresh, something new, something that could be agile. That's why they kept it as a small development team of 35 to 50 people at the initial when it first was talked about. And let's think about that. Some of the games that people thought they were going to make, those studios have massive amounts of people. And we're talking about a studio made from the ground up to do something like that. So I think this studio was built in order to kind of fast track in order to get itself set up to a point where they could probably like hand something off like this to a studio that's bigger that can actually bring it the rest of the way home. But I also think a lot of these people didn't want to work on something like Perfect Dark. I think
really,
I think a lot of these people thought, if you look at those job postings, AAA development and all of this stuff, and I think those were just poor words used by whoever wrote the job posting back in 2017 for the company. Yeah. I think that's what the case on that was. But I do think that to an extent, some people probably wanted it to be more than it actually was. Just like Dutch just said, a lot of people, when you get those type of minds in the same spot, everybody has an opinion. You already have an opinion as a person as it is anyway. But when you're one of those top tier, A tier developers coming from all of these different places where your feedback really means something, and you go to another place where another person thinks their feedback has been meant the same thing too, then you get clashing opinions. Now that doesn't mean that it was a horrible work experience or anything like that, because, some people thrive in a challenging environment where they're being challenged by other people that are around them. It just makes you a better at everything that you do, a better developer, a better coder, a better anything. You got somebody to help push you. Yeah. We just got to come to the realization that some of these people, let's be for real, a lot of them probably have a God complex. They feel like they are the beginning, the end, and the beginning, middle, and end to a lot of the stuff that happens when it comes around development and the things that they do. And they take a lot of pride in that. So I think that's part of the reason why a lot of people like kind of bowed out when they did. Drew Murray, that's absolutely correct. His situation was with a family member, and maybe he didn't like the direction they were going in. I think Microsoft wanted to try something different with the initiative. They wanted to, say, here's a chance for you to build something new, something unique. But they don't have time for you to sit there and build something holistically brand freaking new. Because that's the one thing it's time. Like I've been saying this on a couple of podcasts over the last couple of weeks. Microsoft has so much, and people keep saying, well, they could throw money at it. Well, there's one thing money can't buy is time. Like you can do anything with money. You can buy the best developers and everything else. You can buy AAA games and everything like that, but it still takes time to make that stuff. So ultimately, them pivoting, and I remember when they first announced that it was Perfect Dark, some people were like, oh, that's cool. I definitely want to see what a reimagination of Perfect Dark would be. But then a lot of people were like, why Perfect Dark?
Yeah.
And I think, and if we were thinking that, what do you think the development team that was working on the game was thinking of at that time? So I think that kind of had a lot to do with a lot of the dissension of people wanting to leave and come. You haven't read any type of Glassdoor interviews where they were saying, like, I just didn't enjoy my time there. A lot of them said they really loved the people that they actually worked with when they were there. But, sometimes you just disagree on the direction that something's going on. And Microsoft probably was like, look, we gave a chance for you guys to make the experience that you wanted to, but we can't take 6 years to do this. We can't. So I think that was the direction of it in general. Like I said, this is all opinionated at this point, but I'm not as upset about it, but I am more like disappointed because this is once again another situation where Microsoft put themselves in a situation where they're like, you're you got the outside, community and development company and just publishers and everything. And then just the media in general just doubting you now. They're doubting that you can actually do this. It always comes back to creative freedom. First, they were heavy-handed. Now they have such a hands-off approach, even if this doesn't really fall on them, because they made the decision 3 years ago or 2 years ago to say, hey, let's just make something that we know we can make in perfect dark. That might have been a decision they made 2 years ago, but in people's eyes, they're going to look at that as like, you have people leaving your company, some of the best developers that you ever had as part of your company, and they chose not to be here. And that's kind of the decision that's been happening over the last couple of years. And people are going to think about that when they do it.
Yeah, definitely. That's a good point. And that's a good insight into the kind of inner dynamics of a studio. When you have, and this is a great point, I haven't actually heard that raised. When you've hired all these top dogs from all these different studios, the challenge, I think we've said this before on the show, actually, the point about the challenge of assimilating them into this environment, not particularly with the initiative, but the initiative is a unique outfit there. What I generally, Asa, I know you are with Dutch on the point of the confidence in Crystal Dynamics, but what was your take on the initiative and these insiders claiming Fast and Furious exits?
There's like a lot to unpack and also very little at the same time, because we know what we know, which isn't a whole heap. I'm absolutely with Dutch for two reasons on the future of Perfect Dark. One, I have a lot of faith in Crystal Dynamics. Two, I have very little attachment to Perfect Dark, so if they go the Avengers route with it, I'm not really missing very much. Like, it's Perfect Dark, whatever. Which ties into what Forte was saying. Like, a lot of the developers may well have felt the same. It was a bit of fun on the N64 as a lesser sequel to GoldenEye, or whatever you may think of it. Multiplayer was fun, right? It's Perfect Dark, and that's the end of it. In terms of what it means for the studio, I think Forte also said there's one thing money can't buy, and that's time. Not strictly true. Microsoft have got the money and could have bought that studio any amount of time, but there's something else that money can't buy, and it's whatever would make that studio work. And it's a standing example for everyone outside of gaming that actually is pretty difficult to get a working development team to put out quality. So when you talk about Microsoft having all this money, Sony in their organic studios, actually it is challenging. It is challenging to put together a studio and make it work and make it put out good games. And the initiative, I don't know any other studios that were set up in the way that they were, to be so small and agile, but making these big AAA projects, working with whoever they need to. I think it was a little bit of an experiment, and I don't want to say it's a failed experiment, but it's an experiment that Microsoft have had to pivot pretty hard on. To change the way that it's working. That's where the Crystal Dynamics thing comes in. And they hired a lot of people on the promise that you're all creative geniuses and industry alumni, and you're going to get together and your ideas are going to be amazing and you're going to make the best game ever. And then they had this top-down structure, and to an extent you need that. You can't have a team of superstars that all have their own ideas and hope that the game turns out well. You do need an element of control from someone that knows what they're doing.
Definitely.
And the experiment derailed a bit. They're back on their own track. In terms of slow progress, I think everybody has reason to doubt Microsoft's progress with the studios and the way that they managed them so far, because they've had studios for a little while now with very little output. But like I said last week before, this is the last dry spell that Microsoft will ever have. Don't take ever literally, but with things running as they are and the number of studios that they've got, this is the last dry spell. Next year is not going to have a dead 10 months or whatever we've got at the moment. So, that's it. That's what I've got for the initiative story.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's never that straightforward. I do agree with you. I will go back to the point of Drew Murray, whatever his personal reasons were, he did go back to Insomniac. He was the lead designer, and if the lead designer leaves early in development, that may spell trouble. And I also think some arguments were saying that, well, the design bits were done and now the grunt work begins, but we don't know that. And we don't know. And design in my opinion, efficient design is a design philosophy that evolves during the development of the game. So normally design leads will remain for the entirety of the game's development, really, even though they're maybe contribution diminishes over time as you're closer to going gold. I don't, Forte, when you were talking about devs working on Perfect Dark, they didn't want to work on it. Perhaps that's not exactly their cup of tea. Logic Wins also said, it's like, who really asked for Perfect Dark? I know it was in the fan list for some. I actually cited it as one of those games because they were sitting on a gold mine of IPs that they didn't even use. So it's like frustrating there. So ultimately, Perfect Dark coming back was great, but here's a challenge. There are challenges about how you're going to bring it and make it relevant, how you're going to make it fresh in a first person saturated world, where Perfect Dark, let's be honest, is for us old people. The young uns don't even know what Perfect Dark is. There are a lot of challenges there. I will say I'm quite concerned about the game, but I take your points aboard, Dutch and Ace. Crystal Dynamics are great, so will they come through? I hope so. Just seems the bigger issue, an issue that we've talked about on the show and have had David Jaffe come in and talk about the management of these studios. If Microsoft can't do it with their core ground up team, how are they going to deal with the challenge, Dutch, of then the greater challenge of doing that with their acquired studios? Are they going to be hands off again with the Activision Blizzard, whatever, King, and then you've got... It's going to be tough, no?
Activision Blizzard, that's a weird one, because they have to be, and they've already said this, they are essentially reporting straight to Phil Spencer. Like, as soon as that deal's done, straight to Phil Spencer. Studio heads, studio leads, etc., they all remain where they remain unless they get kicked out for obvious reasons.
Right. Right.
But in terms of the structure and the way that they develop games, etc., I think they're just going to leave them as is, like Blizzard. Not Blizzard, sorry, like...
Bethesda.
Yes, Bethesda. Thank you, Bethesda. Just going to leave them alone. The whole, like they did the ZeniMax portfolio, they're essentially self-organized. They do what they need to do, except for the fact that they're not reporting to Booty. They're reporting straight to Phil Spencer. Fine. With regards, I think this particular studio is a case of trying to, I think, very much a warning for Microsoft not to try and just get every individual superstar developer into one and expect them to work together nicely. We've seen it. It's like in terms of sports, going to the transfer market and buying the best players on the planet and expecting them to gel and be the best team in the world. Because it's not going to happen. It just doesn't work like that.
Look at the Lakers right now.
There's going to be arguments. There's going to be problems, and some of them are not going to disagree with each other. They'll be wanting to be in the starting lineup. They'll be wanting their opinion heard over someone else. That's exactly the same type of thing. If you've got the best developers in the world in a small, agile team and expect them all to perform together at the same time without issue, it's more just a little bit of arrogance if they think that's how that's going to work.
Yeah, no, exactly. But I mean, this is a microcosm of the problem that Microsoft faces, though. No, because let me read a quote here from one of the insiders there. They claim that development, as I said, was painfully slow, that there was no company culture that formed. All former employees who spoke to Video Game VGC said that they were surprised at how lenient Microsoft had been over the lack of progress. This is developers saying this, like, oh damn, these guys are so lenient. Like, we haven't really, if they're saying it, they haven't really done much. Remember when I said, like, early in development, it was like, oh, it's just started, but there was the signs there to me. And one person said, making games is hard enough, let alone when you feel like you can't get through to the people making the decisions that affect everyone. And if Microsoft is struggling to do that with its own homegrown studio talent that it should be using as a beacon for example later on for the studios it's acquiring, assimilating and managing, then isn't that like a slap in the face of Xbox's management and a warning shot that it's not all sunshine and rainbows in Xbox land?
Yeah, I mean it depends. It depends because I've seen some people as well start to bring in question studios that have notoriously always developed and had a really good track record.
Yeah.
Starting to, I understand the flack that 343 are getting because let's face it, of course I give them the benefit of the doubt at launch, and right now we're going into season 2 coming up in May, and there's only 2 maps to show for it. I mean, that's a joke in itself. Then 343 deserve the heat that they're getting now because a lot of people intentionally stood off them and said, no, we'll give you the benefit of the doubt, correct your mistakes, and let's move on. Let's push forward. Others, of course, at the start said, no, this isn't good enough. And everyone's entitled to have those opinions, and depending on how they stood at that time.
Yeah.
Going forward, though, I've seen people that have been like, oh, well, Rare and such, and I was like, what do you mean Ray? Like, well, look at Everwild. I'm like, yeah, but Ray's choice was to stop and start again. By their own admission, they said it wasn't going the direction they wanted it to, so we wanted to restart the project. That's fine. That is a big decision from a big studio making a call on a project that they didn't feel was going the right way. And that's the kind of decisions you need to make in development. If you look on the opposite side, with, say, Thieves, still created by Ray, and then you have a look at, had a slow development cycle at the very beginning. It didn't do too well at launch because of lack of content. We've been there again. But then you look at the state of the game now, where the content is free-flowing, and they've got 4 major updates throughout the course of the year, 1 every quarter, which they're doing a roadmap every year. With them having amassed over 25 million players, including the quality of that game and the quality of the updates that they're bringing to it, including then their pedigree going backwards for all of the titles they've created before that, bringing other studios into question like that, which is what I've seen people do because of what's happening at the initiative, I think is just a little bit silly. I think it's a little bit far-fetched. I do understand bringing on new studios, but it depends on the studios you're bringing in. If you're essentially saying, like they did to Psychonauts, well, Tim Schafer and Double Fine, and essentially let them just crack on with what they needed to do, but provided all the resources under the sun, you've got the complete opposite side of the thing where he said, I couldn't have asked for a better parent company. And if it wasn't for them, Psychonauts wouldn't have been the way it was.
Yeah.
So it depends on each individual studio is going to work a different way. And I think Microsoft now just need to balance what each studio requires. Do you require us to be more hands-on and be more forthcoming with demands? Or do you require us to just leave you to it and let you crack on and just give you the funds to pump out these awesome games? What do you need from us? And that's, I think, essentially the management team, Matt Booty, whoever it is that's looking after each individual studio to bring on, just needs to have that question when they're speaking to these new teams or speaking to teams in general. What do you need from us? And how do you want us to manage yourselves going forward?
Yeah.
Other than money, how do you want us to manage you? Do you want us to just leave you to it and let you crack on? Or do you want us to give you those deadlines and be a little bit more forthright and check in on you every couple of months or every month and see what the progress is? I think it's a one-shoe-fits-all approach from Microsoft, which it sounds like they're doing, isn't probably the best way right now. I think they do need to take it on a case-by-case basis.
I think so.
Should always be that way, though. It's just like with any business you have. You know, me working in retail, I know we have 14 stores in my district. I have a district manager. My district manager has a lot of stuff to do. Can't do it all in a month period to make sure that everything's the way it needs to be. But I also know there's stores that need way more than others. Way more than others. When it comes to stuff. They need more. Definitely. So it comes back to, like, I know, I like I always tell my own people, I said, unless you want, if you if you're the initiative, unless you want oversight over you at all times, this is what we need to do as a studio. We need to make sure that we are consistently hitting these deadlines. We're having communication around the things that we can and we can't do. And that is something that is reflective at the studio level. And once the studio gets that type of structure in place, then you can move forward as a development team to actually do and get the things that you might need help with that you can't do inside of your own 4 walls. But for the most part, you have to be able to, like, self-evaluate your team and say, all right, does 343 need help? They need more oversight than anybody. Well, we could definitely say over the course of the last couple of years, absolutely. Does Turn 10 need it? No. Does Playground need it? No. What about all these other studios like Compulsion and stuff like that just put out a game? Maybe. We don't know. We know they had one game that came out, but we don't know what they might need. A little bit more insight just to see what their next project is going to be to get it off the ground. So it really just comes back to it's just like it's like your children. Some children need more attention than others. And that's all Microsoft has right now is a bunch of little seedlings that are around them. They went from having 3 studios to having over 34 in less than 5 years.
Yeah, I think the main problem they've got really is and specifically over the last few years, they've took so much flack and so much on board that they've tried to correct. That sometimes they're doing things the complete opposite way and overcompensating. So when people were saying you're too hands-on and blah 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 to these studios, they're going, "Whoa, okay, we'll correct that by doing nothing."
Well, think about their social media presence now. Back in 2015, 2014, when everybody was talking, when Sean Layton and everybody was at Sony, they were on Twitter talking, and all the PlayStation people would say, "Oh man, you can have really good conversations with PlayStation execs and stuff on Twitter and stuff, and have these really good conversations and stuff." So where's Xbox? Do Xbox do any of their execs even play games? And what happened? Then you saw a complete flip at Microsoft, and you see Phil Spencer always out there. Then you start seeing Aaron Greenberg and even Mike Ibarra. He was streaming more, so he was out in the open when he was at Xbox. He's back at Xbox now in a minute. But for the most part, Microsoft always seems to like go where the wind blows when it comes to like what their community wants and what they need and stuff, which is really admirable to an extent. But that's the reason a lot of people say, where's the identity for Xbox at? We know that Game Pass is the overall platform for Xbox. We know that Satya Nadella is 100% in gaming now because he's put the money up to show it. But everybody's wondering, like, what's the direction of the company when it comes to the games? The most important thing that you need to make this type of platform flourish. And that's the thing that we're struggling with right now, because we're in that infancy phase where we bought all these studios. We had a couple of games that did release, some released on other platforms because of contractual obligations. And we are looking at the long road of it because 2023 and beyond looks like it's when we're going to have like our Renaissance age as Xbox for the most part. But what are we doing until that point? So everything that happens like this with the initiative, anything that happens with 343 when it comes to that, all of that's going to be negative kind of conversations until we actually get to the thing that matters the most is games. And that's the thing that Microsoft's trying to fight against. But like I said, and that's the one thing I kept saying about time, they can't buy that. They can't get there fast enough. They want to get to the point where Starfield is out. They want to get to where Redfall is out, and where we could talk about Fable, whatever the new Fable is going to be and everything. They want to get to that, and they can't pay money fast enough to do it because there's no way to do it. And that's the unfortunate situation they find themselves in, because they are very powerful in the things that they can influence a generation by a flip of their finger and stuff, but they can't change the one thing they need to do, which is get games to us in a faster way.
Faster way, as well as then maintaining their quality.
Their quality.
There's a lot going there.
Yeah, exactly.
The quality is really important. The challenges are there. Asa, sorry, did I interrupt?
No, I was just having a stretch, but yeah, I will talk. I saw someone in chat saying that you were stirring the pot on all of this stuff, and it's like not right to criticize them from the outside or whatever. And I absolutely disagree with that. For Microsoft, charting a new path as they are, it's absolutely fair to look on with some skepticism from the outside and to just question what's happening there. There's always this talk on whether they should be hands-on and tightly controlling everything that studios do, and like the nice hippie view is always like, no, they should let the creators be creative and stand back and see what happens. And you only need to look at Sony to realize that actually they've always been credited for doing that. It's not what they've done for the last 10 years. And they've had massive success by being tightly in control of what all of their studios do. Tightly in control. It's not a coincidence that all of these games are so similar in theme and pacing and hiding in the grass, and all the things that Sony do. And arguably the one Sony studio where they like say, actually, do your own thing, Polyphony, take tighter control, please, Sony. Fix that. there's arguments for it though. Like, maybe we can talk about Gran Turismo in a bit, but there's
we will do.
There's plenty of examples where Microsoft have done well. With things like Sea of Thieves, that's very much an example where Microsoft didn't mandate that the game turns out the way that it did. That's very much like someone creative at Rare chose the direction for that game. It was a critical bomb when it launched, and it's found success over time, which is great for them. But that's an example of Microsoft being hands-off. Everwild, maybe too hands-off because there's not a game there. Maybe would be playing something if they managed it a bit tighter. I don't know. But you talk about the quality games that they released last year. Some of their best examples, things like Flight Sim and Age of Empires 4 and all of these things that gave them this really high Metacritic position, those were tightly managed. Those were really strictly like, this is the game that we want you to deliver. And actually those two examples, they used third-party studios to do that. So they outlined exactly what the project was. They outlined the targets very thoroughly, and it worked out well for them. So it's really, as Forte said, it's or Dutch as well, probably both of them, it's not one size fits all. They do manage to, they need to manage all of these studios differently. It's very different managing the Initiative, who clearly were a little bit rudderless or had some disagreements going on, to one of their established studios like Double Fine, who don't need so much oversight from Microsoft because they've been controlled. They've had that oversight from Tim Schafer for a long time, and they're a well-oiled machine that knows how to work, and they can produce results, and they're going to carry on doing that. So it's just it's never as simple as they need to go less on, they need to go more. Just a complicated thing, and we just want games.
Yeah, exactly. No, but it's true though, and this is what I was going to suggest as well. Especially, I think both of you alluded to this, is that there needs to be some sort of control, but not a one rule fits all. Every studio, like Acer said, is different. Tim Schafer will manage his team well. You've got a multitude of so many different studios with so many different cultures. Some perform better than others, and the Initiative is in a unique position because this is their attempt at forming a dev outfit of 50 people to kind of incubate an idea and then push it out there. So that alone, that concept is quite unique and challenging, but that's where you need a manager. You need someone to crack the whip out and say, what the hell are you doing? This is so long. When the devs are saying, by the way, we're surprised at how lenient they are. That's, you know what it is? I think
personally, it should, for at least the first project, until that studio has its identity and structure, be hands-on. Like, at least the first project. Once that first project is done and you've got a structure, then
and some confidence in them. Yeah,
then take your hands off. But initially, specifically with growing a brand new studio, that's a different, like, acquiring one that has a structure, that's a different kettle of fish. But I think building one, it definitely needs molding.
At the same time, though, you would fully expect like a company like Microsoft that are, let's not say Microsoft because they are just getting into the swing of having all of these studios, but like Sony, direct comparison, and Nintendo as well, they'll have very specific structures in the way that they manage projects and the way that those teams work, and they will apply them across their other studios, and all of those studios will deliver. There's going to be exceptions, right? There's going to be the odd game and studio that gets closed or whatever else, but it's, yes, you handle everyone differently, but there's merit in looking at what works and what doesn't. It's just silly to see a studio performing fantastically well and going, well, we can't learn anything from them because this team's different.
Yeah,
it's just delicate. Right? Take some nuance all around.
Definitely, it's why we're discussing it here. And thank you, chat, as well. You made some great points there. Gamers Watch, thank you so much for the £5 super chat. Great people. Gaz, you were first right about Halo, then the Initiative. Can you let me know the lottery numbers for next week? Cheers, mate. 12. Just 12. I will clarify, as much as I love being showered with praise, my prediction, it wasn't really a prediction. I was a bit concerned, and my concerns have been realized in the interim, but I'm not saying Perfect Dark is going to be a bad game. I'm not even saying the initiative can't get its act together. Development changes, things are fluid, and that needs to change. But Microsoft has a lot on its plate. It's not an excuse, but it's reasons to understand why things are maybe going awry. But they need to get this on lock. Risk it for the biscuit. Thank you so much for the $3 super chat. Too many chiefs, not enough Indians. Yeah, it's a lot of leadership people, but too many. I don't know what the structure is, but but then what Forte said about the fact that you've got competing egos and personalities, I think that there's some truth to that. Without knowing the specifics, I like that thought, and I'm quite confident that those kind of issues exist everywhere, but there might be a feature at the initiative considering the level of talent they're acquiring. Darkos Dreamers, sorry. Thank you so much for the $5 super chat. Microsoft needs a strong female lead, and I believe Joanna Dark is a good fit. I'm excited for the project. Yeah, why not? Actually, that's a good point. Really, I can't even really think of strong female lead.
Because Microsoft don't have like any characters yet, so
yeah,
they have no leads of any kind.
Theoretical.
No, we've got Kate from Gears, and that's about it.
Yeah, Kate from Gears, yeah. Fair enough. Risky for the biscuit. Thank you so much for the $5 super chat again. Microsoft has overcorrected. They need to pivot back to the middle and take control of the initiative. Take control. The initiative will not be around in the next 3 years. A failed experiment. I think it's a little bit early to call them a failed experiment. We are seeing them. They're still developing it. And the question marks around it. Sorry.
The only other thing I'll say about that, with the initiative though, like if they cease to exist as the initiative, if Microsoft did say like, actually this just isn't working out, go on talent, be free and go elsewhere. The one good thing about all of those devs, the 30 or 40 of them that moved on and left, the initiative was probably a very comfortable place to work. They could have sat there getting their paycheck with Microsoft not demanding much progress at all. And they've gone on because they want to make things. So for us, like the end result, whether it comes from Insomniac, Naughty Dog, whoever they've gone back to, like these are talented people going to make games because they want to make games. So good for them, like good for us.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I think they're going to spend the rest of this development, since Crystal is taking over, I think they're going to spend the rest of the development cycle on building that studio. I don't think Microsoft really wants the press of closing another studio down.
Oh, God, can you imagine?
Yeah, I don't think they want that. So I think because the thing is, everything they purchased, everything that was always the conversation. Like Microsoft bought Halo, they bought Gears, they bought. I mean, Forza they built from the ground up through Third Turn 10, which is the one they did. I think they want this studio to succeed. So I think with Crystal taking over, it gives them the ability to stock this studio the right way. Get people that want to be there, because that's part of the charm of wanting to be being in development anyway. You're always going to meet new people, but you have to like have an idea of what you want to do. And that was the thing with the studio. They put all this talent together with no plan. And if you don't have a plan and you put a bunch of people in one room that have egos, everybody's going to try to make a plan. And that just didn't work well with those people. So they need to get balance inside that studio. I do agree with just bring it back to the middle, but I think they're going to use the rest of the development cycle of that Crystal is working with to get that studio together.
Yeah, fair enough. And also, Jay, but actually bouncing off your point, thank you for the super chat. Says perhaps out of all this, the initiative will find its identity, and I do agree. Where like they're rough in the kiln, they go through this adversity, if you want to call it that, but just really just finding their way. This may be their way of doing it. Let things normalize. Kyle Flanders says it's too early for this entire conversation. Kyle, have you missed the news? They're literal staff members. This is coming from the news that's coming out there about the departures and the seemingly slow progress of the initiative. But again, we don't know what the final product will be, how the initiative will be at the end of it, whether there will be a tightly fit unit operating with someone watching and controlling, or they're going to be given the autonomy. It's an interesting topic. It'll be interesting to see in a few years' time how they fare. Ultimately, the quality of Perfect Dark is going to be the thing that speaks volumes.
It's going to be under a microscope, that as well. You can guarantee now it's going to be under a microscope.
Oh, 100%. I mean, but the fact that they were working on Perfect Dark alone brought them under the microscope, because those are not small shoes to fill in, although Perfect Dark Zero alone. Shut the Okay. I care. Risky for the biscuit. Thank you so much for the $5 super checkers. Think business. You've got 30 plus studios producing, one studio with culture issues, not producing. Sure, the optics are bad, but over half your devs is also bad. It is, but then we need more time on it. In the same breadth of all of this, although they would say this, they did say that they are very confident in in the team. So where was it? Yeah, initiatives management say it's confident in its team. They would say that, but who knows? It's not doom and gloom, but it's just to keep an eye on how things develop. There will be interesting. One game, I've watched the trailer and shocked me. Well, not shocked, pleasantly surprised me. I didn't know there were so many Harry Potter fans. Wingardium Leviosa.
It's Leviosa.
Leviosa. Sorry, Leviosa. Leviosa. Let me get that right. Americans love it more than the British people. Jeez, you guys love Harry Potter. Don't even deny it. Don't even deny it, Forte. You read Prisoner of Azkaban 3 times, I hear.
Twice, actually.
I read it twice too. I was joking there, but wow, see what I mean? I read it twice as well. Oh, well, Harry Potter fans. I don't know if you're Dutch. Are you a Harry Potter fan?
Yeah, I've watched them all. I've been to Harry Potter World in Florida.
You're so lame. No, you're not. I like it as well, but this is what when I tell my friends, they call me lame for liking Harry Potter.
I mean, going back and watching the original trilogy is a bit weird now because it's like so cheesy and but then the following ones, more when they're like adults, like early adults, that's a little bit more easy to bear. It's a little bit more grounded, a little bit more human, as it were.
Yeah. It's so true. I watched them. But does this game have any business looking as good and as promising as it is? Now, there was so much hype on Twitter, and then I was away, and I came back and watched it today. I'm like, what are people hyped about? What is so good about this? And we had a 14 to 15 minute gameplay demo, or basically a gameplay trailer, and a few things. One, this game looks visually really good. Like, I'm very impressed by the visuals of it. Two, how big is this game, man? Like, there's so much. The minute I thought the video was going to end, they went on to another section. Then they went on to, there's so much on customize. You've got it on screen. You've got customization. You've got the combat seems really deep. And you've got these, potions. You feel like you're. By the way, we have to ask. This is for the Harry Potter fans. I don't even know if Asa, be honest, have you read the Harry Potter books? Do you care about Harry Potter? Have you watched Harry Potter?
Watched Harry Potter. I do not care for Harry Potter. I think the whole world is terrible. Terribly written nonsense.
Oh man! Dude, I mean, I do think there's better writers out there, but dang, to say they're terrible.
Terrible.
Hey, J.K. Rowling's like, what? I don't agree with half of the stuff she writes, but at least I can say the books are good.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, you like sparkling vampires?
You know, it's possible that the books are way better than the films, but I don't believe so. No, I like. Good fantasy needs to be consistent and cohesive, and Harry Potter and his love hands is shut up.
Oh my god,
shut up. Yeah. Terrible stuff. Everything in this world is nonsense, and you say, oh, it's whimsical and fun. No, it's bullshit. It's terrible. Get out of my face. Give me a well-written universe, and and yeah,
Oh man. Oh,
keep your whimsy. I'm more.
I would like to know what what adaptation from a book you will enjoy that's in a video game then.
With Asa, it's probably
Probably nothing. Did you read those Halo books?
Not all of them. Some of them. Then Halo's
like
not
it?
an adaptation from the
what did
books, though. I like Halo's universe. I liked Halo's universe up to a point when it was well written and consistent and cohesive, dramatic and grounded, and made a lot of sense.
yeah, I agree with you there.
I agree with you on that.
I agree with that, but look at the game. The game looks amazing. The game looks like it. It looks so good. They showed so many systems. I feel what I'm astonished by how much there is in this game. Like seems like a product of genuine care and attention. And you know, I said, oh yeah, there's another Harry Potter game, blah blah blah. Boom, I saw this trailer. I was like, what the hell is going on? This is like, is everyone trying to go for Game of the Year award this year? Because it's mad. What's your thoughts on this, Forte? Forte, which school would you have liked the sort? Chat. Also, let me know what school would you like the sorting hat to put you on?
Everybody would want to go to Gryffindor, but I actually took the test. It ended up in Slytherin.
Man, after my own heart.
Most
I would
people
pick to be Slytherin.
Yeah, I
Everyone
wanted to be
knows Slytherin's cool.
Yeah, I wanted to be. I mean, who wants to be in there with Malfoy though? That's the thing. Why would I want to be?
We can always have one prick, but it's
I don't want to be associated with that. But you know, when the Sorting Hat was like Slytherin, I was like, interesting. I just rode with it. But no, I'm not gonna lie to you, man. When I was like, as soon as I saw the state of play, I was like, I guess get to see what this terrible Harry Potter game gonna look like. And I was genuinely blown away. I was like, yo, what is this? I was like, this. I was like, first of all, at first I was like, okay, it's a really, really good looking game. I really like the particle effects. I really like what they did when it comes to just the visuals in general. Mm-hmm. But I was even more, what sold me was the combat. I was like, yo, the combat actually looks like it's got some depth to it. It looks like you can upgrade different trees. You got different paths. You got different spells that you can use to buff, debuff, and complement your character in general. There seems like as much as Asa here said the universe is crap, it looks like they actually have some type of a little story built into the game that takes place before Harry Potter. So they're not held to like the structure of what the books are. They're not held to any of that. So they can pretty much do whatever they want. And the one thing that was really cool is, like you said, the video kept going and going, but you can explore every section of that castle, which is something a lot of people have always wanted to do in Harry Potter.
That's been the
There
dream.
is so many different secrets and different areas that you can go to. You get now some things were kind of clunky, like getting on a broom and everything like that. I was like, okay, that could be done a little bit better and stuff like that. But in general, the game went from something that I was like, oh, okay, I'll look into it because I am a Harry Potter fan. 2005, Goblet of Fire. My wife took me for the first time to the movies to go see it, and I was like, oh, I'm addicted. And then I went in. then that next day we got caught up, watched the movies at home. That got caught up to that part. Then I started reading the books, and then I've been a fan ever since. So, I'm excited. I will say it doesn't. I'm not a fan to the point where I'm just going to go out and buy it day one. It just depends on what comes out during that time, because it's because Starfield comes out. We're gonna be on. They said holiday, so am I really gonna like play this over Starfield? Probably not. But it will be something during that January phase when we get that dead period. It's definitely a game that I will play. I just don't know if it's going to be a day one thing, but I'm really more excited for what it could be versus what just the name of it was going to be, when they first announced it. Because I didn't think anything of it when they announced it the first time. I was thinking Wonder Book. Y'all remember that, right?
Yeah, oh my god.
That's what I was. I was thinking Wonder Book when they said this.
Wonder Book. That's a thing I wanted to purge from my memory, but hopefully this is nothing like that. Well, this is nothing like that.
Well, it's nothing like that.
This is nothing like this. Looks amazing. Dutch,
It does, looks
surely
good.
you want to get your Wingardium Leviosa on in this game because, like, well, though, yeah, Starfield. The release thing is such a great point. The game's too big. Our game's too big. Do you have time to play this game? Just make it 5 hours long, please. But what do you think of this? I'm going to ask you. Well, first of all, generally, what's your view on this game?
Yeah, initially I'm very much like 40. When I first seen the trailer, I was like, oh, cool. That looks awesome. It looks like we're going to have a really good modern Harry Potter game. And then the state of play. And I was like, holy shit. Like, the level of detail that they've put into the care and attention they've put into everything within the castle. Like, some of the sections, you're just like, the detail that they've put onto every surface within the rooms, the level of detail they put into the particle effects, and obviously now you've got the room that gives you what you desire or what you require, essentially, in terms of all the items that you need. You can craft, you can create spells, you can create garments and different kind of clothing for you to wear.
Yeah,
the world itself is far larger than I thought. I didn't expect them to go around like, oh, right, okay, now you can go outside and here's your broom and go fly. I'm like, go, what? I thought that was just going to be reserved for playing Quidditch, not for like just flying around the world as you'd want to. It's just phenomenal, the amount of detail they put in this, and all the different animals, creatures. You can have, I think, like a pet, like a side, like a little companion pet that goes beside you,
brushing them. Like, I don't know what you're doing. The Beyond, the Black and White. Remember that game where you had a pet you could slap around and it turned evil or good?
Yeah, I remember that.
On Connect.
On Connect. No. Well, actually, could you do that on Connect? That would have been a good idea.
Connect, yeah.
Was it on Connect? I think I remember being able to slap it in real life, like clap that beast. But yeah, shout out to Peter Molyneux.
It's just the size of the world and things. I didn't. And to be honest, the studio that's making it, I wasn't quite aware of. So to see the sheer quality and level of detail and love and attention they've put into this game, it's apparent in what we've seen so far. I'm glad personally that it has nothing to do with the books or the films or anything else. It's more just, it's in the Harry Potter universe, but it's hundreds and hundreds of years before that. It has nothing to do with anybody you see. Yes, there's a couple of the ghosts that are in the castle that we've kept in it because, of course, they're hundreds of years old. So that's good to see some of them, like Billy Connolly's ghost in there and everything like that. Like, all of them are still within the game, which is great. But I think just the sheer level of detail and things that's coming out of this is beyond expectations. And I think people watching that, specifically really hardcore Harry Potter fans that aren't opposed to J.K. Rowling, will be in an absolute dream state right now looking at this.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a great point there as well about the core Harry Potter fans, because when I did look into the YouTube comments, the people, these are hardcore Halo Harry Potter fans who were talking about the attention of detail. Like, oh, they got this room right, they got this room right. Like, how much detail they go into, and I really like to read that. They really took on. This is a passion project. They really are fans who have developed the game. Exactly. It has to be that, or they're artisans. But
building houses and things. Like, who thought that was going to be in the game?
What the hell? This is really, really going hard on this game. Which makes me think, like, they have so much that, like, they need to. This is going to be jack of all trades and a master of none of them. That's the only concern I have, but that's concern is only founded on the fact that they're doing so much when everything looks so good. It's just me just thinking, where could it go wrong? The only thing I would say is the voice acting didn't impress me that much. I felt like it was a little bit, I don't know, lacking the impact, and also the lip syncing was weird in some bits. I found that a little bit weird, but this is a pleasant surprise when you have, you know, what this kind of made me think was they're finally, you know, devs are starting to raise the stakes. First of all, I thought is this next gen only, because it looks too good to be a cross gen.
No, it's even on the Switch.
Yes,
I know, that's the crazy. Yeah, so that means like development is improving, that they really are scaling better and better as it goes along. But please get rid of the last gen. One day we'll just draw a line on that. But yeah, great game. One thing I was going to say was I like the minimal HUD, and we talked about this last week about what games need to do and what the Elden Ring effect would be. Is there? I mean, this is a
the only thing that more intrigued about is how, because you've got essentially an infinite amount of spells you can cast, how is that going to work in a combat situation?
You know, one thing I saw in the combat was when they were switching things on the fly. Obviously, you have potions to harden yourself and all that stuff, but they were switching things on the fly and deploying multiple spells.
Yeah.
And I wondered that question, like, how are they going to do that? Is it going to be limited equips? And there's a lot of questions there. But the way that he was like comboing, I think kind of running it too. There's like hand to hand, there's close combat. You lift him up, levitate, stasis, boo, boo, boo. If they can get that cadence right, it's going to be so much fun. Like, even if you're not a Harry Potter fan, like, just the game, graphics looks amazing. I'm getting distracted just watching the gameplay here on screen. It's so good, and it's so good to be surprised by a game.
Yeah.
You know, movie game, like an adaptation. I know it's a book, but you know, we had a lot of expectations. We've seen a lot of crap along the way. So
absolutely,
this could be big.
I think this is gonna make Asa a believer.
Please, if it makes Asa a believer, then he's pulled wonders. It was so
I
good.
haven't commented on the game at all and what I've seen in that trailer, but I can tell you it's not going to convince me that the Harry Potter wizarding world is well written. It's not going to change.
All right, so what do you think about the game?
I wasn't asking to have an opinion on it. Like,
just tell us though. I'm asking you.
If that game right there is coming out on the Switch, it's not going to be as good as it looks. That's going to be misleading. The griffin flying is going to be on rails, and it's going to be more limited than it looked in that reveal, I would say. Okay. I'd keep my expectations in check, because that is an impressive trailer. The state of play was impressive, no doubt about it. There's an awful lot in there, and if you're telling me that's on the Switch, then I think someone's putting the wool over my eyes.
Yeah.
Listen, Ace,
did you just say Harry Potter's better than Dragon Ball Z? I will slap you.
I was going to say there was someone in the comments, though, that did, and I'll have to go up to find it. And someone said, I think it will be the cloud version. And that is a good point, because they do have a lot of games which that are cloud only.
Yeah, Switch does have a lot of cloud versions of the games.
Oh yeah, the fake ones. Yeah, yes. Yeah. Fair enough. Rockers SBM, thank you so much for the £10 super check. Shout out to Gazer for acknowledging that I exist, unlike Gaz and Colt Eastwood. Someone super chat that. What's his name? I forgot. I don't know. I just forgot. Sorry, Rockers. Rockers, I know him well. Played him at Apex Legends. Had to carry him all the way through. Learn to play. Get good. I'm just kidding. Yeah, sauce. Nick, what are you doing special, Nick, in the chat? I see you, Isla Drummond, Halo Potter. Yeah, Halo Potter indeed. Sorry, that was I misspoke there. Game looks great. Can't wait to play that game. I just wish games were shorter, but it's bloody hell. And this is the point I was going to raise with you, Dutch. Oh, well, both of you gents, one of you, any one of you can chime in on this. Elden Ring has changed the meta. Most people are going to be watching, developers are going to be watching what constitutes a good game. The reason why Harry Potter Hogwarts Legacy, whatever, looks so good is because there's no like abundance of stupid things on the screen. Even when you see combat, you can't see the button prompts apart from R1 for like lifting barrels and stuff. Do you think, let me ask you this, Dutch, I'm just speaking randomly, whoever has the most exciting take, but I don't know what that take is. When you go back from Elden Ring to this, and you got the checklist and do this mission and stuff, and they talk about grinding and leveling up and stuff, was that not going to put you off because you're going back to the staple gaming design, or do you think that doesn't matter?
To me, it doesn't matter. It depends on how well it's implemented, and it depends on how they've done that grind. For even in games like Elden Ring, and of course you can either get good the hard way in Elden Ring, or you can just cheese it with really easy exploits. It depends, and there's a lot of people that do the both. Some of them,
Yeah.
some of them get up to a certain point throughout the game, and they're just like, you know what it is. Like, I've hit this brick wall, and I'm no matter what I do, I just end up getting wiped out by this final boss, and they're just like, I'm just cheesing this lap bit. I'm fed up. I'm cheesing it, and a new game plus I'll go through legit. It depends, and I think Elden Ring in itself has hit a good balance for new players that are coming in to experience the Souls game for the first time, and the hardcore Souls players. I think there's a good balance there, and I think some of the additions recently from the hardcore wound them up because they've been able to track certain quest items and things now, or at least where people are, to be able to go back to them instead of memorizing them on a bit of paper. And obviously having their icons on there. I think things like that's wound up the absolute hardcore. And of course, we know the Souls Brigade are some of the most ridiculously over-the-top fan base you've ever seen.
They make Halo stands look good. That's
Halo stands are absolute saints in comparison. The Elden Ring stands are, well, the Souls stands in general are just ridiculous. But no, I think they've got a fine balance. They've got a good balance there in the game now. And of course, at some points, you've got to just grin and bear it and grind through it, and you will get wound up, and some bosses will wind you up. But the leveling system's all right. You kill people, you get runes, you level up. You kill people, you get runes, you get level up. Blah blah blah. The higher place you go, the higher the runes that you get from the enemies you kill. Of course, naturally get harder. The better your weapons get, etc., etc. Easy concept to undertake. Once you've got the grip of it, that's fine. Quests now they've got the add-ons. That's fine. It's at least, of course, it doesn't hold your hand. It still encourages exploration because you still need to go to certain places, still need to get map markers uncovered so you can actually be able to see where you're going anywhere in the map. And I think going back to another thing, like people keep referring to it and showing Horizon Forbidden West and then show the sheer amount of markers on the map for Horizon. And that, I think, is a little too much, but we've seen that from Ubisoft games as well, where it's just boof everything on the map. I think they do need to calm down with that. I think again, other AAA studios that are doing open world games need to just take a note on from Elden Ring side and say, let's calm down a little bit here. There's such thing as a lot of content, and sometimes there's just too much content in a game. And I think Ubisoft has been key to having sometimes too much content in some of their open world games. Yes, having good side quests, but would you rather have 100 side quests in a game or 30 to 40 really well written side quests in the game? And I think every day of the week, people would pick the smaller amount that are much better quality than they would do much more content, but less quality. So I think, personally, I think going forward, there's definitely going to be a lot of developers that are going to take notice of Elden Ring and the way that it's structured in terms of its open world and its hands-off approach to the player, and just saying, go for it. Like, have fun. You'll pick up the story by speaking to NPCs and actually listen, because a lot of people, like, you need to listen to these people that tell you where to go, and they tell you the story, and they tell you what you require. And people have
It's not a party chat game. You can't just sit there and party chat and like, blah, blah, blah. I would with Assassin's Creed, the bloody quest log or the marker will tell me.
Yeah, the marker will tell us, so I'll just skip it. And I think the reason they've done this specifically is so that people pay attention to the game and the story. Because if you don't, you've literally you've really buggered yourself up. You can't progress because you don't know where you're going next.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. What about you though? Do you think that's okay, Forte? Do you think that's going to seep into the level design in future games? And do you think Harry Potter will can't get the names right? Hogwarts Legacy will take. Well, it's a bit late now to take cues, but do you see a bit of that Elden Ring influence?
Yeah, so going back to the first thing that you asked, like, would it make it hard to go from one to the other? I don't think so just yet, because not too many games do what Elden Ring done. when it comes to that. So we're not accustomed to it yet. Now, if it was something like every game you went to is like, and then you finally get this one that like does questing and the log a completely different way, it's like, this is what is this? So when you do, it's still like this breath of fresh air when you get a game like Elden Ring or when it does do something like that. So it wouldn't be hard because we're not used to it. The thing that will happen is we'll just remember this one above all the other ones that we played, and then it becomes something like Witcher is one of the best games of the generation, with some of the best side quests, where the side quests are better than some of the main missions. So that's where Elden Ring kind of sits at when it comes to that. But I do think you will start seeing more keys taking from stuff like that. You already hear stories of different games and the way that they're going about their development and stuff like that. You hear about how what's the name of the game? I forget the name of the game, but you already hear like how Starfield, we're gonna talk about that in a second, but how they're doing with their questing and stuff like that, how they're taking consequence into consideration. And I always looked at it like, when you're not putting consequence into consideration in your game, you really aren't melding and building a relationship with characters inside the game. They're just more of an NPC literally than someone you care about. The reason we know who Miranda Lawson and Tyler is inside of Mass Effect is because we build
because we want to have
relationship with those characters.
Relationship.
We did that too. We definitely did that too. And even if you were film chef, you did it too. So you did it no matter what. But but I think that's the thing that really I think it's going to be the next evolution when we start seeing games step into that direction. But when it comes to like the questing in general, I do think Elden Ring is going to start being a benchmark, because we're starting to get more and more games like that, and we just need to get away from, I'm just going to drop a bunch of question marks on the map and you just fill out the map as you go. That's kind of the thing that we need to get away from, and I hope seeing that in the future we don't see it anymore.
Yeah. No,
I think
that's
much
a good
to your
point.
point as well. I was going to say much to your point as well with the consequence thing. We're seeing that a little bit in the Outer Worlds as well. And the one thing I liked about Outer Worlds is at the end it tells you specifically, kind of gives you a summary as to all of your consequences caused this to happen. Like, this is ultimately what you chose for the game. Like at the end. And that's what I want to kind of see a lot of. Like you say, the consequence has an action. Like, whatever you do within it, there is essentially something that comes off the back of it, whether it's good or bad. Something you do will potentially mean that you cannot do this mission anymore because that person no longer wants to work with you, doesn't like you, doesn't trust you anymore, and so on and so forth. That's the kind of stuff I really want to see more of.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. Which is a great segue to the next topic. As you quite correctly guessed, Starfield. Starfield is okay. So I saw this again this week. Okay, so we got very little, if not minuscule, gameplay footage. It was just basically what's it called, Johnny Five, just there looking at the TV screen. It was like, that's the robot companion that you have, and that's it. And I saw, like, whilst on holiday, shouldn't really be looking at Twitter because Twitter can be a cesspit, but I enjoy the source. But a lot of people crying or espousing that Starfield is in trouble because they showed no gameplay. And to those people, I say, brace yourself. Because if there's a game that I have confidence in, if there's a game that the developers, Todd Howard, everyone shows confidence in, it's Starfield. There's a reason they don't show the gameplay for this game. They always typically show very closely before launch, like 6 months or something before launch. The gameplay is going to come, and I'm very confident about how I was so excited listening to that. What these developers, or Todd Howard and all these chaps sitting around the round table to discuss. Now, obviously, we won't put the video up on there. It's just a bunch of blokes just miming if you put it on. There's no gameplay there. But let me read out what this game's going to be wicked. Please be good.
Right.
But it sounds like it's going to be wicked. So they talked about, so the side thing, like you mentioned, Forte, is such a great point. It's been stagnant in game design for so long in many games where the NPC is just another unit there. There's no consequence. And in Starfield, they're talking about really having, not only just to have those consequences, but also have them, and I think these are not minor touches, but relatively easy to implement and execute that make the game great, which is like they'll comment on things that you've done, like in the game. Hey, by the way, you went to that brothel, bad idea, because this is a world where any bad ailments you get will cause you to die, or something like that. I don't know. My mind's in the gutter.
You don't need to pull from like your recent history, Gaz. You can come up with some other examples.
Oh shoot! Shots fired.
Well, I had to pull some kind of reference point. So yeah, I did. Yeah, so that kind of like dynamism is really great. So one thing they say is it's nice with Starfield to go back to some things we didn't do. The backgrounds, the traits, defining your character, all those stats. They're bringing back like kind of hardcore RPG tropes. They say there are too many games that do these things that people are ready for. Something that does a lot of these things, in older hardcore RPGs. Some of the things that we were used to, some that we used to do, doing those things in a new way. He didn't actually elaborate exactly what older hardcore RPGs were. He was alluding to that. Do you know what they mean, or chat, or gents? Do you know what he's alluding to?
I just hope it's not the breakable weapons again.
Oh Jesus!
Because screw that.
No,
That was like the worst part of Zelda right there.
Oh, Zelda and Original Oblivion, like weapons that degrade and get worse, and you've got to then repair them and find no, that's too much.
Yeah.
Like
I don't need that much realism in the game.
Yeah,
it's
too much. Sometimes too much. You need a good balance. Yeah, fair enough. And this is one thing I can potentially get behind, because in a war, your weapons don't just break after 4 hits. Let's face it. Specifically, if you're like with swords and things. However, there is a very rare chance that at some point you're going to hit something and the end of the sword will break off. That fair enough. If you've got like a limited chance where potentially the weapon snaps or something like that, you can get behind that, because that is a more realistic approach, not like your weapon's dead in 4 hits, like it is in Zelda, where you can hit someone once and that's it, weapon's gone. Or you grind all game for like the most limited sword in the game, and like within 10 hits it's gone.
Oh man,
no.
Dynamic.
Yeah, I think hardcore's maybe to what Forte was alluding to before, where we talk about consequences and actions. Maybe it's a little bit more towards that, a little bit more. Like, be careful what your choices are with any of the NPCs you talk about, because they've all got consequences, like good or bad.
That could be it, though.
What about civilizations?
Yeah,
because you are going to be traveling to different places and stuff. So,
like things like treaties and like political stances. Like, we don't like you because you've sided with this particular planet, and this planet's been like causing real issues for us. So. We don't trust you.
That could be it. Because I'm looking at the quote here. It says, we sat down and it was funny. We didn't start with, let's do an evolution of, let's look back at the old Oblivion system. But there are a couple of beats there. So you have to think about, what's my risk here? And that's the point about, making choices and choices mattering. Which one do I want to choose? We didn't want it to be a system where there was definitely a right thing to say. Thank you. That's really good. Like, the grays is where the fun is at. 50 Shades. There's again no look at the new system, just footage of Oblivion, but even then, they're trying to make characters feel like less quest vending machines. So that's great news. It seems like it's open world, really breathing life into it. The only thing I would say is it's gonna be so hard. in an open world spacefaring game. I know it's not like bloody No Man's Sky can fly out and anywhere. There will obviously be like hub worlds and stuff. But Forte, what's your confidence in Starfield? Because people are some people corners are crying about no gameplay. It's all gonna go to shit. What do you think?
No, I think Bethesda proper, when it comes to their idea of how their games are going to be structured, they have hit it out of the park most, like 10 out of 10 times. Every time they released a game outside of 76, which was not Bethesda proper, has been Game of the Year contender. It's Fallout 4, Fallout 3. We already know what Skyrim represents and stuff like that. So I do think that they're going to be just fine. I think they're going to basically hit the mark when it comes to this, because I think they're thinking more outside of just the realm of what they made before. The fact that this takes place in a more futuristic environment, there is no rules really. They really can paint a picture that they want to paint the way that they want it to be, and they're not grounded by anything that they did in the past. You know, when you had Oblivion going to Skyrim, you kind of had those you had those strings that were attached to each game where you were like, okay, well, we really can't go too far away in this direction because we'll change too much of the lore in line. Yeah. With this being a brand new IP, they can do anything they want. And I think that is the number one thing that I am more excited for, because I like Skyrim. It's not, I mean, I love I love dragons and all that type of stuff. I'm not really a huge medieval type person when it comes to RPGs. I like the fantasy side. That's why Final Fantasy and stuff like that is some of my favorite RPGs. That's why Mass Effect is my favorite RPG of all time. And that's why I'm looking forward to what Starfield can bring, because I feel like it gives a possibility of something that we haven't seen in that space, and we can get the story elements that we got inside of stuff like Skyrim, but we can also get that in something like Starfield. And I think that's the thing that kind of interests me the most and that I'm more excited for.
Definitely. No, fair enough. I'm excited about that as well. Really, sometimes the shackles of the old games will restrict the risks that they take. This one, it's all fair game. Can't wait to see it. We'll most likely see this at E3 or whatever events that's going to take place. But don't worry, if you're a Starfield fan, I don't know why you would be anything but more excited after that video. Yes, you may be pining to see gameplay footage, but it's coming unless it gets delayed again, but I don't think it will. Who knows. One of the final topics on this has been doing the rounds. Cole Eastwood in the chat being an absolute messy chat. He's been snorting the sauce. I've been a terrible influence on you, Cole, because he's been firing shots. The facade crumbled. It didn't take long, right? Just needed me to snort some things, and you're like, Gaz, you know what? I wanna break free and full Xbox mode, but this is all pent-up aggression based on what the narrative has been for a while. I had to add some sauce in there because Gran Turismo is doing what PlayStation, just adding to the crumbling of every single narrative. You had DRM and now you have grinding, and we talked about the problems and the unethical moves by Polyphony to reveal the monetization after the game launched and after the reviews were released, which is pretty bad. But what happens? They end up releasing another patch that reduces the payout of more currency in a game whilst also fixing, this is where their priorities are, right? Late game races used to farm credits due to a bug, but this is the problem. The DRM is an issue because, funnily enough, you can't even... There was an excuse with Gran Turismo Sport because it was billed as an online game. You had to pay online to play the game, even if you weren't playing with whatever. But this game is an offline game, disc-based game that you can play single player, except you couldn't. Asa, you had an experience with this game. Share your experience, please, if you kindly would, with our viewers about this game. I'm not a slut, Tony. Call me.
He's smiling so much. I'm looking forward to this. He holding it in.
I'm smiling because Gaz completely skipped me for the last two topics. I was just wondering if this one would come my way.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Gran Turismo 7, though, that's fine. I want to move on to
dick.
Gran Turismo 7. That's an interesting topic because, you know, we've talked about it a few times on this show, and at first I was like, oh, these trailers that they've shown are not impressive. This is looking like a disaster. And then something happened, and marketing and the media convinced me that actually maybe this is a good game. It's not going to be easy for Turn 10 after all, because Polyphony have turned up and delivered something. And then they had the whole microtransactions thing, which I've complained about already. But I went and got it anyway. I thought, I'm going to do some videos on this game. And it's so interesting seeing the discourse around it unfold, where it looks really good sometimes and really terrible in other ones. Like, people are managing to cherry pick shots that really tell either narrative. And I was like, I want to see what's true. I want to know what's true. It's freaking awful. The game is freaking awful.
The game is all... Oh, shit.
I'm sorry, anyone that likes it. So it's not... You can drive in it, right? The racing in Gran Turismo is still pretty decent. It holds up. It's not really ugly. Right? The narrative where you see these terrible screenshots and it looks horrific, that's not what the game looks like. It looks tidy enough, right? But everything around the races is so bad. So bad. And I'm not just talking about the egregious use of microtransactions and grinding, although that is a big part of it. Everything around it. You have the whole interface, this map that you look around with these cheesy smiling people. You've got these little headshots of people that look like they're smiling at gunpoint, telling you in text what you have to do, with this terrible elevator music in the background. And it's killing me to play this thing. Like, I want to race. And you know how a Gran Turismo game is structured. They're the same as they have been for 25 years with the way that you do these license tests and things. But it's so hard to actually get into the good races. The way that they've structured it now, I've done like 20 license tests, 3 races. I don't have access to any other races like that have reasonable payouts. It's set up for a grind now, and it's saying you need to grind. Then you can get into some more content. It's elevator music and forced smiles, and I hate it. And I want to get into the racing, but I was trying to get some footage for a video actually, and everybody probably knows already, but Gran Turismo requires an online connection to play the single player game, which was fairly controversial. They came out and said, oh, we don't want people cheating, but we kind of want to sell you those cheats. So this is how it's going to be. And then their servers went down for, I don't know how long it was in total, but it wasn't a short period of time. And the game was basically unplayable. You could do these like little musical challenges that it's got, where it's basically every arcade game since the 1980s, where you have to get to checkpoints within a time limit to extend the time limit. You've got that gameplay mode. There's 6 of those that you can do. And there's like 4 different areas you can set up an arcade race on. But it's really, really limited compared to what's in the actual game. And that's all you can do. And you're stuck. You can't make progress in the career or anything like that while it's offline. It was offline for ages. Worst of all, though, when you actually start playing that damn game, it makes you watch an 8-minute look how good we are video that you can't skip.
What is that?
I can't believe this game. I really can't. And yet I say all of this, and once I can put my VR headset on and play it, I'm probably going to love it again. But for now, I hate that game. I can't believe it's 70 quid. Anyway, it's not what you asked, was it?
Did you get that? Did you get the 25th anniversary?
Do you not always? Is there a way of avoiding that?
There's definitely a way of avoiding it.
That really long intro video was like just way over the top. It was like 15 minutes or something. It would have to be about 15 minutes at least. The intro.
They put in the whole of Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. I'm like, Gran Turismo was 25 years ago. I remember it. I played Gran Turismo 1. It was not this.
Yeah. I completely agree. Like, some of the stuff around it is just way over the top, and I've seen people try to defend it again, as usual, as you do. It's not grindy. You've just got to do the races and blah blah blah, and you get them really quick. I'm like, you do not get them quick. Don't lie. Well, you get level 20 to the menu 23 thing, and then after that, the races start giving you 25,000. I'm like, so I mean, 25,000. That's great, but that's one upgrade point for a car that costs 400,000. So I need to get the car first before I can upgrade it, and then I've got to think about upgrading, and that's just one part for what would the best part of 500,000 to upgrade a car in its entirety. So you're talking you need $1 million anyway to get a race spec car, which you need for the higher level races in order to grind. And the fact that they're now reducing outside of big long distance championships races like the Le Mans, etc., where you get higher payouts now, opposed to the normal championships where they've reduced the payouts. So, and then now you can't put your own races in there where you're like, okay, well, I'm just going to do 40 laps of this lap because it pays out quicker than doing this one. And they're just like, no, because microtransaction.
Bad design. Don't you think the game got reviewed quite? Do you think the game needs to be re-reviewed?
Yes.
For that? Because that's, oh my god, spam bot. Hide user and channel. Yeah. Let me get the URL first. No, so yeah, I mean, 86 or 87 or whatever it is on Metacritic, and you've got these pretty fundamental issues to the experience. It's got through. It's laundered its badness, has it not? Do you think it should be re-reviewed?
A lot of them are. I've seen a couple of them changing their review scores based on that, because a lot of them knew there was going to be microtransactions, but they didn't tell you the amount of what it was or how it was going to be implemented until the game was released. So they didn't release the store or what it was going to cost until after release, and then they were like, right now the store's open, there's your microtransactions, and then they were like, whoa, let's have a look at this. And then they're seeing the egregious amounts, and the fact that a car that was $3 is now $40. I mean, that's just bonkers.
That's ridiculous. They're taking the piss. They're really going all in. That's the end of the narrative that I was talking about. DRM is there, the pricing's there, game as a service, live service, egregious things, and Gran Turismo. This goes back to what you said, Asa, about less control. Like, this is where Polyphony are left to their own devices, considering their legacy and their place in PlayStation, whatever, hierarchy, Bell, wherever, their studio outfit. But that's not good news. Yeesh. And Huggy Channy, thank you for the $10 super check. So, okay, he's going back to our previous topic, but let's talk about, do you think Bethesda will take away the quest log? I think we're overreacting on Elden Ring being the way. Just because you're shit at the game, Huggy. Elden Ring should keep track of quests. Get good. Starfield will be way more fun than Elden Ring. Huggy has been sipping on way too much sauce. Just because we like Elden Ring doesn't mean we're saying get rid of the quest log entirely, but it depends on the game, the setting. Ultimately, we've had a Ubisoft formula slapped on us so much that we could ignore NPC dialogue and everything because we knew eventually the little marker would pop up with a map and all that. Elden Ring, Starfield is a whole different ball game. Bethesda will have a quest log based on the scope of that game. You can pretty much guarantee it. Some games, though, need to change that, right? Jens, you want to add anything to Huggy's chat? Huggy? No? Because that's how wrong you were. No, you're not.
Yeah, I am.
You're Jens.
That last little bit that he said, where he said, hashtag PlayStation has no games and PlayStation makes trash. I know he's, playing, but Sony have had a lot of games this year. Gran Turismo 7 has irked me. But you can't sit there with a straight face and say that Sony haven't had games this year because they're doing pretty well.
Oh, that's second super chat from Hoggy. Yeah, thank you again for very generous super chat from Hoggy. I'd excuse the graphics if the gameplay is good for Gran Turismo 7, except it's Sony and they've put forth this top quality narrative. So yeah, compete Sony. Forza is leagues ahead, and then he does his console worry. Well, we haven't seen Forza Motorsport yet. The narrative, the top quality narrative, is always, they have produced great games, then they will continue to produce great games. But Forza has always been the king of races, and
what about people just realize that now?
Yeah, I know.
They've always been there.
Gran Turismo specifically, though, it's not like it's a bad-looking game, because the best part about Gran Turismo, as always have been, is the level of detail they've got in the cars. The cars aren't the issue in the game; they never have been. The issue in GT7 is that the environment is just dull. Throughout, the environment itself, the level of detail on the environment and everything else that goes around it is subpar compared to the cars. Like the cars stand out so much more because the environment is last gen. It's like beginning of last gen territory. Like it isn't anything to shout about. It's nothing to write home about. It's very much just, it's okay.
Normally the opposite happens. I never thought I would see a moment where an open world game like Forza Horizon 5,
yes,
with its photorealistic environments almost,
yeah,
where literally the first thing we always caveat, well, it's not going to look as good as something like Forza Motorsport because it's more confined, it's more in a track. We know it's not going to look as good as that, but then you see GT7 and you're like, why does the environments, and they talk about the drunk, and I see people talking about you have to move the camera in to get better, visuals when it comes to like the depth of field. And I'm looking like, wait a minute, when I'm driving in Forza Horizon, I can see super far away and I see that mountain looks just as good, or what that volcano, I should say, because it's a volcano on that island, looks just as clear as it is, and it gets even better when I get close to it compared to what you see in GT. So it's just interesting to see that is something that kind of flipped and people aren't really thinking about that. I'm like, this game is doing something in a grand scale of we're wide open compared to what GT's doing more in a confined space when it comes to track racing.
100%. Yeah, that's a very good point. Like, no, in my opinion, and correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm doubling down on what you said there, Forte. An open world racer, arcade racer, for that effect, can go by either way with that point, but has no business looking better than a confined, more smaller.
You'd expect,
like
you'd 100%. You'd expect a track simulator being the tracks at least being absolutely top notch. Like you don't need to have these unbelievable draw distances, but the environment that you are immediately in need to look phenomenal, and specifically when it's something that's on both generations. I've not seen, like, I'm playing on the PS4 Pro, I don't have PS5, but I haven't seen anything on the PS5 version from the footage I've seen either that tells me that is something that has took this amount of development time. When you're looking at the level of detail, like you mentioned, Forza Horizon 5 has in its environment and its contrasting weather systems throughout a much larger area, as well as then having the car models, which have, granted, like I say, it's in between inferior car models compared to GT7, but it's still very much high quality.
Yeah.
If they've managed to do that and get the environment ready on an open world arcade racer versus what this is, which is a track based, even this is when people are comparing Forza to Forza Motorsport 7 to GT7. The vast majority of people aren't comparing the cars. And that's what a lot of people can't get their head around. We're not comparing the cars. What we're comparing is the environment and the track itself. Yeah. And you're talking about the actual track quality and the environment quality. Forza Motorsport, its environments and its essential photorealism of some of the areas you're going through is what it should have in GT7. The tracks themselves should be very believable, but they don't. It feels like you've got a realistic sim racing car in an arcade track.
Yeah. And I don't get that. I don't know how Polyphony dropped the ball there. You can't even say cross-gen as an excuse because bloody Forza Horizon 5 is cross-gen. Yep. And it's open world. And it's got destruction, I guess, for the environments. And it's got grander scale. And the cars look nice. Forza 7 looks comparable to GT7. There was a time.
Too. I think Drive Club looks better than GT at some points.
Yeah, Drive Club,
especially when it comes to the environments, I think Drive Club literally looks better than GT7 does. Yeah, car models, that's completely different, but the environment, what you look at, that's the thing. Most people don't even really like when I drive in HUD. Or I'll just see the hood and stuff. So for the most part, you're not even really seeing your car sometimes. So all you have is the environment around to actually kind of go off of. And when you're driving like that, it's like, this looks very vanilla.
Yeah. Yep. I don't know what happened there because you have to remember, Polyphony were known. When there's a Gran Turismo game coming out, here comes Uncanny Valley again. And when Forza Horizon 5, remember, it was shown off and they thought it was real world footage, and just boom, the car comes in. To the point where some people actually, some PlayStation fanboys thought it was fake. They used real life footage until they saw the whole gameplay footage. And
What happened to that 4K? What happened to that 8K footage?
Yeah, 8K footage.
Where's that 8K footage that they were teasing years ago?
Yeah, I don't know what's happened. They've dropped the ball there in almost every facet, apart from maybe gameplay. But then you could argue, based on these systems, that is gameplay. So a lot of Sony fans have been, even the most hardcore fanboys have been really frustrated and called out Gran Turismo, because there is, like I've said before, sense of pride with the races, and the notion that you're going to spend almost maybe the entirety of this generation being bested again in the racing department on platform basis. It's gonna sting, right? Forza could still suck, completely flop, but I don't think so. I think it's going to be an incredible game. It's going to be incredible. Speaking of incredible games, the last final game. I don't know if you guys have played this. Clearly, I need to sit down and just palm everything away and play more games, because Tunic is out. It's on Game Pass and it's reviewed incredibly well. And I want to know, gents, have you played the game?
Yes.
What are your thoughts on that?
Elden Ring Light.
Oh, sorry. I should have mentioned who. That's a sign of a terrible host right there. Sorry, go on.
We can all rest assured you weren't going to bring me on in it, can't we?
We value your opinion, Asa. We value your opinion.
Dude, you're like the definitive guy. I've said this before. Once you speak, we can't argue against you because you're always right. So it just kind of ends the conversation. Like, oh, we should have said what he said. That's why I don't get involved. Be quiet, because we don't need your truths. I'm so sorry, Asa. I'm just so bad. I'll blame the 1.5 hour jet lag or whatever it is. I don't know. I'm sorry. Well, I'll come back to it. But Dutch, please talk to us about this game that is a cross between. Just tell us.
Yeah, it's Elden Ring Light, which is awesome, and we even knew that beforehand. If anybody played the demo that came up at Summer Games Fest as well, a number of months back. There's a lot to it. It isn't easy. It's not a walk in the park like a lot of people think it is. For an indie game, it is definitely a difficult game. You will enjoy it though. It's obviously not like to the scales of Elden Ring difficult, but it's another game where it doesn't tell you where to go. It doesn't tell you what you need to do or what you need to find or where you need to find it. You have to pay attention. Obviously, when you go around it as well, it's got these signs that tell you things in a language that you don't understand. So that's always great. Gameplay though, it is fun. It's easy. It's essentially 2 buttons. It's your dodge, roll, and then your attack. You do get a slightly more powerful attack later on. But you also get your potions, and you can level things up gradually, and you can level yourself up and become stronger and have higher health and higher stamina.
Okay.
But it's a very cute game, and I don't believe it's that long either. I think it's all in all maybe 4 to 6 hours long or something like that. Perfect. So yeah, but no, it's a really cool game. The music on it is tremendous. It's nice, relaxing music. The world's nice. The enemies are pretty difficult at times. Like I say, in some circumstances, you'll find that bosses will wipe you out in one hit. And you need to go, you need to either figure out essentially what you need to do or just come back when you've got a better weapon. So you start off, and one of the first weapons you find is just a stick. And then you've got to find throughout the game, obviously when you open a chest, then you will get health upgrades, and you'll find your sword, and then you'll be able to use a sword. That does a little bit more damage. It becomes a little bit easier. But initially, you're just beating people around with a stick. And that is quite difficult. The easier enemies are fine. They don't pose a challenge to you at all. Specifically, if you're coming off the back of Elden Ring, you'll find this like cakewalk in comparison. But even then, you don't have like a block system like you do in Elden Ring, so you can't block or parry anything. It's a case of dodge and roll, and just get your attacks in when you can. Don't get greedy. No, it's a cool game though, but it's certainly not going to be for everybody.
Yeah, fair enough. No, thanks for the very detailed kind of breakdown of it. And also, I like the comparison now, how Elden Ring has coached us to become better games, making other games easier, how it should be. What's your take on that, Forte? You've played the game. Are you enjoying it? What are your take on the reviews?
Yeah, I think the reviews are spot on. I think a lot of people are going to really enjoy this game. Just yet another game. I literally popped up on Game Pass, and I was like, huh? I was like, oh, this came out already? You know, part of the greatness of not just, you know, living on Twitter and following every little thing that happens on there. You get surprised every once in a while when you just turn on your Xbox to see a game that you're like, oh, let me try this game out. I keep hearing things about it, but it's fun, man. I 100% agree with Dutch when it comes to working around with a stick, because it's not the easiest thing in the world. You start fighting some of these enemies and you're like, yo, this stick is not it. Literally, it's not it. And the one thing that I didn't know how I felt about it. I like it, but I don't. But I like when you're going around and you're opening up these chests and you actually are given an instruction manual to the game as you do it. It's like it's really like, I don't know if I want to get instruction manuals on the game as I'm playing it, but when you look at it, it's like you said, it's written in this language that you don't understand, you don't know what it is, and it's kind of filling you in on the things you need to do as you progress through the game. So it's kind of like keeping you up to date with things as you're progressing into the game, which I actually kind of like. But it was just weird seeing it being presented that way, which was actually really refreshing compared to just being in the starting area. Basically, the whole starting area of the game is basically a tutorial mission and stuff, and it really does amp up once you get to like past the first boss and everything like that. But okay, I put like about 2.5 hours in, and I'm enjoying it, man. I think anybody that has been playing Elden Ring, or even if you haven't jumped into Elden Ring, if you want to try this out just to see how that type of gameplay can feel, it's a really good like olive branch to get over to a game like that. Of course, Elden Ring's on a whole nother level, and I try to tell people that when they walk into the store to buy, it's like, hey, do you even know what this game is? And they say, oh, no, I just see my friends playing it. Like, okay, well, good luck. There's a return policy of 2 days. But but for real, though, I do think the game is charming. I do think it kind of gives you this thought of like, oh, it's probably for kids and stuff. But then the moment you start playing it, you're like, oh, no, my kid might get pissed off and break a controller playing this game. And I think that's a sign of developers actually knowing who they're marketing the game towards, and I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's great. That's great news. That's kind of the impression there was a risk there of it because of the aesthetic that it may. Yeah,
you mean the cutesy look. The cutesy look. Yeah, I think that's it's definitely like a very sneaky thing, because it is by no means an easy game.
It's just like Kena, was.
Deceptive. Yeah.
It's just like Kena.
Like, oh.
Yeah, if you didn't play Kena, it's just like that, just not as good looking as Kena.
Well, okay, and that's a good looking game. Ace, I was going to go to you, but I'm going to go into the next topic. Ace, talk to us about Tunic.
I suppose I will a little bit. I've been quite negative today. I'll be fairly negative on this as well. It's more of Death's Door to me. So Death's Door was made by two people, has that same perspective, and is vaguely, broadly quite similar in the way that it plays. Tunic is made by one person, and like I always said when I was talking about Death's Door, like, well done, that person. You've done fantastic work. Does that mean that this game is like high on my list of things to play? No, it does not. I'm sorry. Like, I played it for a couple of hours, and like, well done, that one person. But there are thousands of games that I'll play ahead of it. I will say that. Yeah, so like Xbox fans are well served if they like that kind of game. You've got Tunic, you've got Death's Door. Like, go out and buy yourself a Super Nintendo. You'll have a great time. For me,
Oh my god!
for me, I really
That's
don't.
why I
Like,
don't bring him in there. It's literally just.
You already.
I really don't mean it disrespectfully though. Like, one person has spent 6 years of their life making this, and it is an accomplishment for that person, but it doesn't compare to other games that you can play for me, and I don't understand why people get so carried away with this kind of thing.
Ace is like, nice job making your game, but I'm not going to play it past.
I will also say, so I've got a 13-year-old who really wants to make games, and he was sitting beside me while I played it because he wanted to see what it was all about, and he took it like he's quite inspired by it, as like I could achieve that doing something by myself. So it's like it's great in that sense. I do respect it.
Amazing.
It's just that there's like 500 games in a part. Like, there's things like 12 minutes that I'll never put ahead of it, but there's a lot of games that I would personally put ahead of it.
Did you play 12 minutes though, Ace? Did you play it yet?
That 12 minutes is the only game that I criticize some games. 12 minutes is the only game that I actually dislike. I hate it.
Oh, so this is even worse. He said I wouldn't even put 12 minutes in front of it. Jesus Christ. Hey, he said, listen, man, you're already halfway through. You said you put a couple of hours in. The game's only 45 hours. He put a couple of hours
12 minutes
in.
is worse. He says 12 minutes is worse.
Oh, 12 minutes is worse. Okay, that's better. Okay,
Yeah.
but you already put a couple of hours in, sir. I'm going to need you to just go ahead and buckle down and just do the other half.
See, you say that, but when I was looking through Game Pass today, I put 15 games on my download list. And one of them was Tunic. The other 14 were ahead of Tunic for me.
Oh my god.
So you don't supposed to look at the whole entire library of Game Pass at one time.
I did something good. I deleted the bot. Yeah. Did I delete it?
You got the link first this
Isla
time,
did
didn't
it.
you?
I think I've almost made a moderator. That would have been
I almost did that the other day. It's like, I'm about to make a spam about the moderator. It's about to be terrible.
Can you imagine? Like, just all this power, and they're like, yeah, and the stream just became amazing. Hoggy Chatty, thank you so much for the $10 super chat, man. He goes, Hoggy's messy. You should have been on the show. Just fight Acer. He goes, Acer! PlayStation has only released 2 games, and no remasters don't count. He is the arbiter in deciding what counts as a game. Horizon isn't exactly lighting it up. What does that mean, Hoggy? And Gran Turismo 7 isn't that great. What is... Oh, sorry, but Sony has lost a step lately. Forte, what are your thoughts on a Hoggy?
I'm trying to figure out. Wait a minute. So I can only put, and I love Xbox, but I can only put this in the Xbox term. How many games has Xbox put out this year? have they released a game this year?
The one thing I will say about Sony this year, though, is that on their side, the QAs seem to have dropped a bit compared to previous games. And I say this from playing a few of their recent titles, including Horizon. The actual final product that we're getting when we're booting it up is nowhere near as polished in terms of its performance compared to previous titles. Yeah. Horizon Forbidden West, for me in itself, specifically on the previous gen, I have now stopped playing until I get the next gen version, because the pop-in and the performance on the previous gen version is nowhere near adequate enough. Like, we're getting NPC characters coming in on screen, and they're essentially play characters for like 20, 30 seconds, and then eventually the texture will pop in, and then boop, there we go, fine. And then when you're traveling along on your mount throughout the country, it's like pop, 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 all the way through, and you're just like, this is just annoying.
Let me ask you a question, Dutch. Let me ask you, honestly, I need you to answer this honestly, too. As honestly as you can.
Yeah. How
much of it is the fact that, yes, all those things are a thing in Horizon. I agree, 100%. Terrible. Yeah. But how much is it the fact that you can easily overlook those things because you're playing Elden Ring, and Elden Ring is taking up all your time, and you don't have to play Horizon because...
Well, you see, this was before I played Elden Ring, so I was playing Horizon first. I was playing...
Right, I know. And then as soon as Elden Ring came out, you did what?
Oh, I played that, but I'm playing...
You dropped Horizon like most people did.
See, I'm playing four things because I've got like ADD, so I can't sit and just play one thing. Like Elden Ring's had a lot more of my time, but I can't just sit and play one thing at a time. I play like 4 or 5 things at a time because I can't really. I'm sitting there and I'm like, yeah, great, turn it off. I want something else now, and I'll play something else.
Same.
But no, and I say this because obviously I haven't played the previous Horizon, haven't played every other first-party title that Sony have come out, even up until recent times, Ghost of Tsushima and everything else that was released last year and the year before. The actual end product was far higher in terms of its polish and its performance quality, was far better than the games that have come out this year, including GT7, including Horizon Forbidden West. I've noticed that on both of them, to the point where I'm like, with Horizon, I'm personally thinking that this was maybe a step too far for that game and it should have just released on the next gen. But they've chose to push it as far as it can physically be pushed on the previous gen in order to ensure that it releases so that they can have their sales. And obviously, notoriously, we know that they've said they want to now. They've rescinded on their Believe in Generations and they want to include as many people as they physically can. They don't have a structure like Xbox do with cloud that allows previous gen to play games streaming. So they are bringing it out for the previous generation. Horizon Forbidden West, it does have its issues normally, including on PS5, but not to the extent that it has on PS4 or PS4 Pro, where it isn't performing well enough and the textures pop in really frequently. And it's more than it's one of them just quality of life annoyances that you get out of it. And it's like,
I think you're right. You wouldn't get that
from the enjoyment. Yeah.
I agree with you on that because I do think that is one of the biggest things that's kind of happened this year when it comes to Sony's games, mostly due to the fact that, we still are in the middle of some craziness in the world and stuff like that. So all of these, that's why I think Elden Ring was so amazing at how it did. And they did have issues out the gate, but it looks like they fixed a lot of that stuff up to this point. But I do think that's why because God of War is supposed to come out this year. I don't think it's coming out this year. I'm hoping it doesn't come out this year because that's my favorite franchise on PlayStation. I want it to come out next year so they have more time to make sure that these bugs that they've been infested with over the last 6-7 months are completely out of that game. I just think that in general, Sony has Sony is feeling it way more than Microsoft is feeling it right now. Yeah. When it comes to that date, Microsoft doesn't depend on console sales. They have Game Pass to move it. They are going out and getting games like Tunic and everything to be inside the Game Pass in order to get people inside the Game Pass's service and stuff. Where PlayStation is still living on the old model of, we want to sell hardware. We want to get people into our ecosystem. Now we want to bring all our newer games that were going to be PlayStation 5 only to PlayStation 4 because they need to have that system buffer what they're doing. So I do think a lot of that stuff has to do with the fact that they're trying to fix something that they didn't think they were going to have to fix.
Yeah.
And that is definitely detrimental to their development cycle right now. Because I truly believe that Horizon was not going to be current generation. I truly believe that game was going to be PS5 only. Just like God of War was going to be PS5 only. But I guarantee you, the fact that we are on x86 archetype now, things can scale. They said, we'll just take more time in order to build these games still to work on our previous gen platforms. And when you do stuff like that, you put yourself at risk of breaking something in the game that you had already. And at a certain point, we got to get the game out the door and we can fix it along the way. People blame Microsoft for that all the time. Trust me, Sony's doing the same thing too. And it's going to be a consistent thing until we finally get out of this generation. Like you said before, Gas, let's just drop Xbox One and PS4 completely.
Yeah, 100%. That's exactly what we need to do. Drop the previous gen. And I said this, and this is why I've just stopped playing Horizon for now. I don't want it spoiled by the performance that I'm having to deal with right now. So I'm just saying, it's there. I've got it. The save is there. When I pick up the PS5, I'll play the game again. But until then, I don't want the game spoiled because I enjoy that game. I enjoy its world. I enjoy the combat and the mechanics and everything that's going along with it. But in its state that I'm playing it on isn't going to do it any favors because it's going to ruin a good, positive picture I've got of that game. now I don't want that picture ruined. I want it stepped. I want to keep it there and have a positive experience with it. Not think, oh, that game is terrible just because it's on hardware that it really shouldn't have been released on. Again, some of the issues they're having on the previous gen are causing the issues on the next gen because the focus isn't on the next gen versions. So that my point in the quality for Sony this year has been less than what it should be compared to what we're used to. And it's a high marker because Sony have been put out these really high quality games. And yeah, these really high quality games still have their bugs and we still find some of these funny little quirks that go on with them at times. But their actual level of quality compared to Xbox is what they're renowned for.
Right.
That's what we've got to compare it to. We're not comparing it to Xbox. I'm not comparing it to Xbox when I'm talking about this. I'm comparing it to Sony for what they've produced previously and their quality. So if that's the standard you have to maintain, then that's the standard you have to maintain. You don't let that standard slip when you're trying to do these things. And Sony have just got to think at some point, when are we actually going to just say, right, call it a day for the previous gen? Like, we need to focus on next gen now. Because right now...
It's going to be a tough one.
Including God of War, it's still cross-gen.
It's going to be a tough one because of the silicon shortage nonsense, which really just causing...
Yeah, but they've still got the best part of 15, 20 million units out there, and PC, the market they can cater to.
I agree with you completely. I think they should just go
for it.
Well, they've said it. They like the whole distinction between gens and blah blah blah, generations, blah blah. They should go for it. They really should. And I do agree. Like, I get it. Money's money, but
money's money.
Dealing with competition, you have to leverage your advantage. And PlayStation and Sony have always typically been way better than Microsoft in leveraging and putting out the best looking games. And if that.
Besides like 5 minutes on one of these shows where I played Horizon Forbidden West, I haven't actually properly played Horizon Forbidden West yet. It's so much higher in the queue than Tunic. I'm saying.
Hey, guess what, Ace? I'm right there with you. Haven't even started it yet.
Oh man, Ace with the Tunic hate. He just doesn't like isometric games.
It's not hate.
No.
At least it's got space on your hard drive.
Yeah, that's true. RG ViperX, thank you so much for the membership chat. He says Sony's blowing their load at the beginning of the year. Again, Microsoft is giving us the slow build to explode at the end. Slow build up to the explode at the end. It's parental advisory, explicit content. I think Sony in a better... Well, Sony delayed... What game has they delayed till later? Was it Forspoken? That's coming later, isn't it?
Yeah, it's coming October now. Now.
So I guess that kind of spreads the exclusive thing a bit. But, you know, Starfield is the big hope for Xbox. I think Redfall will be delayed. But let's see. It's been an interesting chat. Lots of Tunic hate for Mesa. But yeah, I'm joking. He didn't hate it. He just didn't care for it. But he said it in such a way, it sounded like hatred. You're very good at doing that. But no. You didn't like Death's Door either, which I haven't played either.
Again, not true. I didn't dislike Death's Door. Misquoted.
I swear you said you hated it.
No, I didn't hate it. It's similar to Tunic. Like, well done, Acid Nerve, but it's not that high on my list. I see other people saying, this is Game of the Year. And I'm like, no, it's not.
Asa hates foxes. That's what it is.
Asa doesn't like a game that's made by less than 10 people.
Oh my god. What is this? Can some mod... Yeah, Asa, I don't know what I'm doing. Bloody... Thank you, Isla. You're the best. Yeah, so we've talked on this chat about... We've covered... Thank you so much for everyone for talking. We talked about the initiative, and we had a very interesting conversation there, dissenting opinions, but ultimately, like, the question is a big question mark around the whole thing. Hogwarts Legacy defied expectations and impressed everyone almost in unison, apart from Asa, who hates the game, the book, the lore. Of course he does. But read the books. They're very similar to the movies. Starfield, people were crying about lack of gameplay. Don't cry. It's going to be epic. It's going to be epic. The people crying are the people who are actually not looking forward to it. Gran Turismo, DRM and grinding. That's been an issue. Almost, I've seen a lot of the hardcore Sony fans just pissed at it, and that's how bad it is. I know user scores don't count normally, like 2.5 on even Metacritic. It's so low, it's worth kind of acknowledging, but yeah, maybe jury's out there. And Tunic, we talked about this incredible game that only the worst kind of person would not want to play. It's been an interesting chat. Generally, the news has been quite slow, but this is the thing we have to do. But we've got these topics, and we've got a great discussion, dissenting opinions, and someone in chat said that why are you being negative? We have to maintain the critical discourse. We always do from day one. I get it. I'm a big Xbox fan, and I was gonna shit on Sony's chest in a comedic way with the Source, but we will go hard on any company. Always. We're not for sale. Xbox doesn't like us. PlayStation doesn't like us. Nintendo doesn't like us. PlayStation don't even send me stuff, actually. The review codes anymore. I don't think so. I don't know. I haven't really tried. Also, before we go, you have to check out GameOnDaily.com before I say the outros. The website has seen a massive speed boost. If you go on it now, you can submit your content there. Anything from your own articles to other websites, your YouTube channel, all that stuff. Apart from that, not just don't tell the spam bot about that. But yeah, generally it's seen a massive upgrade, and also we've introduced Game Directory, which is at its infancy, but it's basically there to consolidates all the information. To check out Elden Ring, for instance, and Asa can bring up Elden Ring like a boss.
Oh no, I'm not doing that. I'm busy.
Okay, I'll do it. And then
you'll do it.
I'm
you
just
can't do anything.
Chat, so. I can paste the URL in the chat. Then you will see, like, boom. And we have so much things here. So basically, you can see got everything from all the shit consolidated in one page. So you got news, reviews, guides, trailers, all that. And this is just at the infancy. Lots of work. It's almost been a year since we just getting this out, and also making it fast. We have high aspirations with this. It's taken a while. Don't think we're giving up. We've only just started. Just wait till you see what we have planned or what we want to do. We want to get over this hurdle, but please do register on it. And from next week, we're going to be giving away weekly, literally money to people. Well, gift cards, whatever, to people who leave the best comments on the articles. So I'll share it on Twitter. If you don't follow us on Twitter, please do, just so you can be aware of the competition. So every week we'll be giving away gift codes for PlayStation or Amazon or Xbox, and we'll talk to you about the topics. Asa's navigating through the website now, and you can see the game directory there. So yeah, good chance for your viewers to get rewarded as you reward us generously with your attention, with your super chats, which I'm going to give it back to you. It's not like we make money from this anyway. Always never break even, but we'll put it back because you guys are the best, and really is to reward people use the site and actually watch the show, as opposed to just throwing out competitions out there to boost numbers like people do. Just doesn't help with the long-term health of it. Check out GameOnDaily.com. Will be, I promise you, the sickest tanker site when that comes on mobile as an app. I'm gonna be making more money than Bobby Kotick. No, we will never make more money than Bobby Kotick, that piece of shit. Anyway, going on this weird segue, please check out GameOnDaily.com. We're going to have more content next week. I was away on holiday, so I didn't get to do the videos I wanted to. Next week, we should have some good videos. And the Source is going international. What you mean by that is any opportunity that I go abroad, I will make a Source video. But it's going to the Source multiverse. If you watch Rick and Morty, that's the only clue I'll give you. Before we go, I have to say thank you and goodbye. That was such a long drawn out outro. I'm so bad at this. I told you to do this instead of me. But gents, you have killed it. You smashed it, and both of you had such incredible views, more nuanced than I could ever be, really kind of giving the detail on things as well. Thank you both. Forte, it was a pleasure. Thank you so much. I hope you had a good time, man. And
Man, I always have a good time, man. Like I said, you got me out of work 2 hours early today, so yeah, it gave me a reason not to be there. But no, it was great being here. Chat was great. Dutch, always a great time with you. Asa, we're gonna get you on Tunic one of these days. You're gonna finish that game. Have to find something that you hold against you to make you do it. And then Gaz, you always do a great job on the show, man. But for myself, Forte, Gaming Forte everywhere, YouTube, Twitter, Xbox Live, and PlayStation. Check out DBS Podcast, our podcast we do every Thursday night, 9 p.m. with my homeboy Soma Backslap. We are doing really well on it and stuff. So if you like Xbox content, just talking about games in general, come check us out over there. And yeah, man, enjoy the games that you're playing, and make sure you do that more than play Twitter. That's the only advice I'll give people.
Definitely listen to that advice. Play games more. I need to stop playing Apex Legends more. And play other games as well. Last but certainly not least, it is Wandering Dutch, the man with lots of knowledge. And thank you so much for gracing us with your presence. I hope you had a good time. And what's in store for your fans? Can you call them fans?
Yes. Awesome to be here again. Shout out to Asa, who was overlooked slightly tonight. I hope you enjoyed the show, Asa. Sitting there as a lovely fan in the corner. Gaming Forte, always a pleasure, brother. And of course, guys, thanks for the invite again. It's always great being on the show. Good fun, really good fun. As usual, you can find me everywhere at Wandering Dutch, and of course our midweek mix-up, which is every Wednesday at 7 p.m. GMT. Currently 3 p.m. EST for the last week, and then it'll revert back to 2 p.m. the week after, when our daylight saving time kicks in. And then. Yes, also the weekend for the weekend edition now, which is on Sundays at 6:30 p.m. GMT and 2:30. So yes, enjoy. But yes, pleasure as always, guys. Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you so much for coming on here. And yeah, definitely check them out. Isla Drummond, you are a legend. Thank you so much for posting the gents' channels and linking that in the chat. I can't talk. Why do you make me do outros, Asa? You know I can't talk on the fly. But yeah, Asa, how could I forget? How could I possibly forget you? Why do I do outros for you anyway? You're the co-host. Just interrupt me. Just take over the outros. What do you want to do? Just go on. Tell everyone.
Yeah, I want everybody to, like you said, go to GameOnDaily. I'm all over it now. Now that it's we've had this platform for a couple of years now, but now it's brilliant to use, and it gets so much better the more people actually get on and use it and talk to other people. So do that. Go on there. Use your Twitter account so your followers are all on there. The news that you see will be what you care about and what they care about. So do it. It's fun. And yeah, check out my stuff. I'm going to do more videos. That's my plan. Don't know when they're going to release, but don't know what they're going to be. They might be good. They might be terrible.
That'd be
Probably
good.
Terrible.
No, they won't. Your videos are great.
No, you don't know what I'm planning. Yeah, that's it.
Oh,
Go.
God. No, definitely.
Pause.
Please check it out.
Pause.
Sorry. Pause. No, definitely check out GameOnDaily.com. Seriously, a lot of work is into it. You have to at least check it out and give us your thoughts on it as well. It really will evolve with your feedbacks, and we are open to be as critical as you want to be reasonable and gentle a little bit, but be as critical as you want to be, because this is user first. Finally at speed. We didn't even push it as much because we want it to be silky smooth, then talk about it. And we're gonna aggressively push the website, because it's not a website, it's a platform. It really is like a platform. And a lot of people think it's just another gaming site. It's not. It's made for content creators and for people who want to disseminate or ingest content, that gaming content. And it's I promise you, scratching the surface. But it's so sexy to use right now. And the competition will enhance people to use it, hopefully incentivize them to use it. But there'll be other incentives as well, with profile updates and game gamification that we've talked about. This is just scratching the surface. Potential investors, reach out to us in our email. Open your checkbook, because it's going to be dank. If you want to make money, come to us. No, wait, that sounds weird. Just like the video. Please see you next week. I'm going to make more videos. I can't think. Clearly something's wrong with me today. And I will see you next week. Next week. See you next week. And I have a couple of great videos, and the source is going to take another mental turn. It's going to take a mental turn. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you. Honestly, we love you all. Please smash that like button if you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next week. Take care.